As the curtain opens, you accepted Lathander's charge and marched into a deep forest toward a remote village, only to be swallowed by a fog that bent time. It spat you into sunny farmland at first light, despite starting at midday. Smiles were bright, eyes were empty. Jeff's orb of detect curse flared constantly. The farmer chattered about nothing, the half-orc constable offered bland pleasantries, and the village chief invited you into a cottage scented with spices and fresh cookies that tasted like air. When tensions rose, the world buckled. One of you blinked away and reappeared alone inside a small chapel beneath a radiant statue of Lathander raising a glowing hammer. A wordless reply pressed into Jeff's heart at the statue. Not yet. You tested both faces of the town. By day, the church felt warm. A warning note from a prior investigator lay by the altar, and a sense of patient power filled the nave. By night, the doors sealed and showed 4 keyholes. Unseen shapes filled the pews, and the air strangled your courage until you were forced outside. The inn tugged at hunger. By day, food tasted like nothing but granted subtle boons, and a curious notepad let Jeff leave messages. By night, mead flowed, the innkeeper's temper snapped hard enough to launch Milo into the street, and the stew hid shards of glass. The constable, genial by day, became vicious after dark, carving Milo down and then later, during daylight, breaking through the fog of whatever holds this place to press Jeff a key. Clues multiplied. The barn sat empty by day. By night, its stalls held silent, peeling beasts stitched with wrongness, and sacred flame reduced a cow to pus. Chauncey slipped into the inn's kitchen after dusk and caught the truth. Torsos on hooks. The barmaid butchering human flesh. The village chief resurfaced from his glaze one bright morning and shoved additional journal pages at Jeff, whispering of a prior party and something left behind. Meanwhile, the well, the cells in the constable's office, and a lack of food in the inn's spotless kitchen painted a bigger picture. Everything is glamour, ritual, and hunger. You brought it to the farmhouse. A pristine bedroom held a mummified woman tucked in bed like a doll. In the butchery, the farmer revealed tendrils writhing from a severed arm and a bone knife crafted from a human jaw. Zasthur drove divine light into him, Milo's halberd carved deep. Chauncey snatched the jawbone blade, and the final stroke parted his head from his body. Outside, something screamed in chorus. Scarecrows battered the door, poured inside, and buried you under straw and claws. As they surged over you and the night itself leaned closer, the scene snapped to black, leaving the church's 4 keyholes, the jawbone knife, and a lone key in Jeff's pocket, promising the next move. Last session, you staggered out of a hedge maze of streets into a village where the sun rose the moment you looked away. A farmer smiled until he sicked scarecrows on you. A sickly girl coughed out half-truths. The constable gave you nothing you could hold. The village chief poured tea, set out cookies that mimicked life but tasted like blank paper, and something in that emptiness snapped. Chauncey's plate shattered. Zasthur struck, and the chief vanished as if the scene itself refused to register violence against him. Day and night began sliding out of sync. You could not meet in the same hour unless you wrote to each other on a single parchment that crossed the seam. You drifted back to the church over and over. Inside, a statue of Lathander raised a glowing hammer with a carved admonition, "Not yet." At the constable's, day's simple jailhouse became a night stairwell that dove into screams. After slapstick plans and a hammer pinwheeling in close quarters, the oak door collapsed. Inside waited chains, broken bones, and a table floodlit by nothing you could see. Jeff took the straps. A pendulum blade dropped. The room reset through the moment of his death. Then each of you fell into intimate terrors. A battlefield of the dead you couldn't save, a wife rescued only to be trampled, darkness that crept under your skin. When you stood again, laughter rolled from the rafters, darkness swallowed everything. Only Chauncey could see through that magic. Chauncey's jawbone dagger of envy sang toward the constable's gemmed badge. Once you tore it free, the blows finally counted. Jeff crowned the fight with a guiding bolt, delivered as a radiant backhand that blew the constable's head apart. The inn at night was a trap disguised as hospitality. The innkeeper was feral and protected by a necklace-bound ward that halted steel and spell a breath from her skin. She threw butcher knives and shadows as if they were part of her kitchen. You tested, failed, and then stole the opening. Chauncey's sleight of hand, Milo's pressure, and a final plunge ended her. Keys fell into your hands. Farmer, constable, innkeeper. The chief invited you into a manor too large to fit inside his cottage and made two offers: leave now or drink and become keepers. Zasthor drank and wore the constable's badge long enough to swing, then rejected the gift by vomiting up black ichor. The world blinked, as it always seems to hear. You found yourselves once more at the church, 3 of 4 keyholes ready, a mysterious well slot shaped for a chalice and stone, and a moon that burned less each cycle. The last key and the necromancer chief wait on the other side of one more bad decision.
In the final session of the one shot that wasn't, you tried to outwit a curse that feeds on cruelty by doing the one thing it couldn't stomach: being kind. The world's most uncomfortable group hug popped some of you into the village's daylit reflection, while the rest remained in the night. At the inn, the keeper's bright hospitality came with subtle boons, and you plotted: recover keys, probe the well, and reach the church. A courteous stop at the chief's hut netted herbal tea and deflections. A test at the well confirmed it was very real and very deep. Then Chauncey seized the church's glowing hammer. The statue crumbled, the earth shook, and Lathander's warning reached Goldmoon. The time was not right. Too late. The fuse was lit. Dragged back into night, you reunited and marched on the chief's hut. Inside waited an impossible mansion, torches too bright, paintings that felt like skin, and a steady heartbeat thudding through walls and floor. Fire stoked a house-sized fury. Guided by that pulse, Zasthor found a hidden door atop the stairs and a chamber with 5 cups. He chose the 4th. The chief rose, flesh tethered to the floor, and the hut shell split as the mansion unfurled into a colossal mimic. Tendrils lashed. You slashed a door-sized wound and tumbled out, battered but alive, clutching the chalice and a key. At the shuttered chapel, Zasthor stood before a green-flamed skull and the truth of the curse. Mallus offered him dominion over the village's malice, power enough to defy death and reclaim what he had lost. Zasthor refused and was swallowed by the dark. Goldmoon answered with faith and fury. Raising the hammer of dawn, he called the Morning Lord's light, shattered the curse's grip for a breath, restored your strength, and held the shadows at the edge of a radiant circle. In that hush, the relics fused into the aspects of Mallus: chalice, skull, jeweled eyes, and jawbone blade. You sprinted to the well and set the artifact. A pillar of black and green fire erupted. The avatar of Mallus rose with 2 armored guardians. Steel met sorcery. Milo hewed a night apart. Chauncey's flames bit deep, and Goldmoon's halo kept the shadow horde from overrunning you, while necrotic blasts stripped away your very life. Mallus surged back, wreathed in green fire, shrugging off common steel. Goldmoon marked him for a reckoning, and Zasthor, spurning the offer a second time, drove sanctified wrath through the avatar, erasing it in a burst of holy power. Silence fell, fog thinned, the village exhaled. In that victory's glow, the cost revealed itself. Every one of you had given everything to finish what others began. Lathander's light opened before you, and in it a familiar figure beckoned. You stepped forward together, heroes twice over, as dawn finally truly returned to the village. The scene faded to black one last time.